Let's see here. Basically, I've been playing around with uh, a short arm. Okay, I did this early on in the thing and basically proved that the ball joint ran out of range of motion. And basically, I was going back and checking that again just to see if I could squeeze it out, basically get the short one to work, so that way there's no spacers up here. So basically what I did was I jacked it all the way up until the arm hit the lower bump stop. Okay, then I positioned this on the arm and tacked it with the ball joint at its max angle in the other direction. Okay, because then basically what that was is that would have been all the squish on the bump stop before it got to the point of maxing out the ball joint throw, the angle. Okay, now it's sitting in the down position, and we're still a ways off that bump stop. Okay, but the ball joint angle is maxed, and that's what's holding it upright. Now I've got the jack down there holding a little bit of it, basically just enough to keep that bar in place, but it is all the way down. The other thing I did when I was setting up the need a better way to hold this camera to keep it from moving around so much. The other thing I did was, if you look, I set the angle closer to the angle on here. Okay, and the reason I did that is because if it's not in the center, you can run out of some range here, and I'll show you. This is a 620 ball joint, and you see how it's radiused here. Okay, if this one's too hard for me to move, but if your ball joint is tilted at an angle and it hits over here, you can see that you're going to lose a good 1/8 of an inch of movement there. Okay, so that's why I set that on the arm there so that it was more flat. I wanted to make sure that I was pulling out every little bit of angle I could on that thing. And one option here is that the bump stop could just be raised, or a custom upper arm, because that's basically what this is simulating, is a custom arm that would be built short so that it doesn't need a big spacer in here. The custom arm could have the bump stop, that distance taken up, built onto it and that stuff. The only other problem here is you can see, now granted, I got like about 8 degrees of caster in here, and that's probably overkill. This thing should probably be lined up more over here. That doesn't really change the fact, I mean, this bolt would be over here. I would still end up with a bar, with a tube coming almost backwards. And then this one would have to come all the way out here and over. And I'd like to avoid bending the tubing if possible, because I'd have to pay somebody else to do it, or buy some really expensive dies to use in my buddy's tubing bender. Would look kind of cool and stuff like that. I could notch the tubing and put it off at an angle kind of thing. One suggestion my buddy had was take 3/8 inch plate and make the whole U shape out of 3/8 inch plate. And then on the tubes on the side here, there would be some 3/8 inch gussets basically that would wrap around the tube all the way down and add some extra rigidity to that. I like that idea. The only problem is you can see there'd have to be a severe bend in the plate right here, or the bump stop bracket would actually just have to get cut out. Let's jack it up just a little bit here. Okay, that wasn't even jacking it up much, and that certainly buys us some more room. If I were to limit the travel there, and as far as the shock goes, I'm going to redo the shock mount. I just, every option I've looked at, that shock mount needs redone. So if I were to limit the down travel to that would be doable. you know, this plate would take on an interesting shape kind of thing, and I would end up with a tube basically coming straight back here. This one, I'd have to play with that a little bit, because the tube would be bigger. Tube would come out to here, and I don't want to make it any wider, because then it really starts running into the fender well, you know, so I can't just put it all the way out here. Not only that, I want to use the cross shaft from the 720. I don't want to have to make a cross shaft too. Might possibly, but I'd rather avoid that. So this, I guess that's kind of sort of possible. I may play with that some more. And I don't know if I can jack this up. That's pretty close to ride height right there. Everything looks okay. If that's compensated for, you know, about where it had to be before on the other, we're just past center there. So that's looking okay. Oh, actually, it would be a little bit shorter, because if I did that part where I limited the down travel and had that raised up a bit, the shock would reach closer. So that would put me right in the middle of the shock range there. So that's not too bad. I could live with that. Let's see if we can get this, get it past the... Okay. Now we're up against the rubber bump stop. This is bolted tight. I can tell you just from, you know, how I tacked that together and everything, the range of motion is pretty darn tight there. Kind of hate to have these videos run so long. You know, but I'm long-winded, and half the time I'm talking out loud thinking to myself on this, so you can either, you know, play along and suffer through or not. That's kind of your choice. Hopefully somebody's getting something out of this, you know, looking at the options and stuff like that, and seeing some of the challenges with trying to, you know, set your limits. You know, I mean, my parameter was that I wanted stock track width, and you could see some of the grief, you know. I'm not an engineer, you know, I mean, company that does this all the time, stuff like that, may say, oh, hey, yeah, we'll just put a big-ass spacer in here and some nice grade 8 or grade 10 bolts, you know, some high-grade bolts, and then boom, piece of cake. I did look. There is a shock extender available. They're readily available. They're about 12 bucks a pair, I think. The thing is, though, I almost went out and bought them, and I decided not to, because all that does is get the shock down. I actually want to put the shock back in just a bit. So I'm not going to buy the shock extenders just yet. What I was looking at here is bottoming out there, and that puts it right about there, where I just lift it up a bit. So I'm gonna have to play with that some more, drop it back down, and let's see if I can drop it down without the bar. Oh, yeah, see, I got to keep pushing it down to do that. So I'm going to run it back down, look at the shock clearance again. God, you know, the short arm just might possibly work, and that would really kind of that would almost be the cat's meow. I wouldn't have to make a big spacer here. I wouldn't have to worry about that. I could keep the limits within the ball joint range of motion. The caster is going to be quite a bit. Okay, well, I'm just sucking up too much time here. So let me cut this one off and spend some more time thinking off camera. All right, I lowered it back down. I measured to the tip of the spindle here, okay, and I raised it up to where I had it up in the last video, and that was barely a 1/4 inch, not even quite a 1/4 inch actually. So I raised this a 1/2 inch because I figure, you know, cutting a 1/2 inch off the travel there, not even noticeable. especially in the down. You know, that's just how deep your tire can drop into a hole. So I'm really not too worried about that. Not on a street truck, off-road truck, something like that. That might be an issue. Anyway, so I took away the bottom ½ inch of the travel, and what I wanted to show here was just how much more clearance I have in here. Okay, now granted, I'd have to have a bigger, longer bump stop at the bottom of the thing, but keep in mind the tubing would be, let's pull that back a bit, the tubing would be coming from, you know, somewhere up here down to here. Okay, so the bump stop wouldn't be, there wouldn't be a huge, you know, like 2-inch block or anything under there. The other thing I wanted to look at here was right where the shock is. So that's basically just touching the upper corner there. Okay, so now I can raise it back up and check that again and see if we're at, see where that sits. And then basically what that's doing is showing me exactly what I need for the shock mount. So let me do that, and I'm kind of starting to like this upper arm, or this the custom short upper arm, just a little bit more. So before I get too excited, let's do some more measurements. Boy, it's going to take forever to load these videos tonight. Okay, so basically, if you notice that, I got the lug nuts in. I'm sitting at ride height again. Okay, so I'm going to just hold the shock there, basically pretty darn close to where it was before. Okay, and whoop, trying to do 5 things at once. Yes, I'm counting breathing. Okay, so we get that about there, and that is beautiful. That's really darn close to the middle of the shock travel there. So that, putting the shock mount to where the hole is there, that would be beautiful. Whether or not it stays directly straight up and I just make them taller, or I pull the shock back, I've got to do some more checking, you know, for the clearance there with an actual shock body. I have this piece of copper in there to simulate where it was hitting the upper arm. I'm still going to have to pay attention to the bump stop mount down there if I'm going to be moving the shock inboard at all. So let me run it to the top of the travel. All right, we're back. It's jacked all the way up. I'm pushing hard against the, it's taking some weight off the frame actually. I'm up hard against the bump stop, okay? And keep in mind, as I've pointed out multiple times, I chopped the end off because that's roughly where it showed full squish. Since I can't squish it here in the shop, you know, that simulates a hard bottoming out against the bump stop kind of thing. So anyway, ball joint is pretty well maxed. What I wanted to check here was, if I put the, oh yeah, look at that. See, the shock is back where I've been referencing it. And granted, I've got an extra washer in there. I'm really not too, whoop. Kind of hard to pay attention to both hands at one time. Okay, so let's bring it back up. You can see that we're really, really close. We're within 1/8 of an inch there. And that shock travel, that is, that would be into the squish on the bump stop. There's still plenty of extra room the way I set up the shock, the mock shock. There's still plenty of room there to not bottom the shock out. So that 1/8 of an inch is not an issue. Oh, not only that, it would be down just a hair. I'm actually lifting it up too high. So it'd be down just a hair. So we'd be 1/8 of an inch prior to bottoming out the mock shock. And the mock shock, there's at least a 1/2 inch before the real shock bottoms out. So that just might work. I think maybe I need to kind of take it one step further and create another mock-up for the upper control arm. And basically what I'm probably going to do is build a jig to hold this and the cross shaft in this relationship to each other, and then I can figure out how to get the tubing to fit and everything like that. So that will be that'll be a bit of a fabrication puzzle. Yes.